What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Flow Society here, and today I got a video about ladder attacks from shorts. Now, this is the ticker NVOS. This was the 5th of September 2023, and today it is currently September 6th, 2023, so this happened yesterday. And I want to quickly run through NVOS and kind of give you an example of a ladder attack and the dynamics that go with this and that are a part of it, and how to potentially catch a ladder attack, or a better way of putting it, shorts attempting to bring down a stock. You know, there are many ways to bring down a stock as a short. One of the ways is getting bulls to buy into a stock to go long, and kind of building up momentum, buying up shares and selling it. Another way is finding resistance and shorting it from that resistance, unloading a bunch of shorts and bringing it down, making it very hard for bulls to keep the buying pressure up. So yeah, there are plenty of ways of doing it, and there are also plenty of sort of indicators or marks within the market that shorts can use as a way to keep bulls from pushing a stock further. But today with NVOS, I'm going to specifically show you how shorts used buying pressure momentum as a way to pull bulls in, to get them to sell out of their positions, as well as using volume resistance, which I'll explain to you in a second, using volume resistance as a way for bulls to not be able to push the stock any higher. All right, so just to quickly run through the morning. So NVOS popped up here in the morning, and you saw consistent buying pressure. Now, generally, if we take a quick look at the daily here, right? We go all the way over here. These are just some lines that I currently have. Let's delete these real quick. All right, it's a bit hard to see, but here we go. So as you can see here, the last this is the 6th, this was today, this was the 5th, the day I'm speaking of, and the 4th. And as you can see here at the bottom with the volume, on the 1st of September, which was a Friday, we had a decent amount of volume. We had about 225 million shares traded. The next day, Tuesday, Monday was Labor Day, it was closed. On a Tuesday, we had 281 million shares traded, and today we had around 96 million shares traded. So as you can clearly see, we also did have, at one point a couple of weeks ago, we had a 406 million shares traded in a day. So we do have a lot of good volume, but as you can see here at the bottom, we do have days where we have 30 million. Here we have 19 million. 16 million, another 16 million day, 26 million. We had 55 million. So we have a lot of volatility within the stock in regards to volume. So if I now bring it back here, right? So how do you say? In the morning, we see a lot of volume pop up. Right, we see buying pressure kick in here. I mean, you're talking, this is a 5-minute chart, by the way. We have 5-minute candle, almost 11 million, 9 million, 10 million, 6 million, 4 million, right? And we see this massive surge in volume. So there's definitely some buying pressure. Now, there are a bunch of catalysts and speculative catalysts for why this is occurring. So we can take this as early morning buying pressure, people trying to take positions in a stock that they think could run, right? And then we see a bit of selling off, as you can see here by the volume candles, right? Early morning volume spiking up a lot. As we enter into the later hours in the early morning, we can see volume kind of goes down here, right? Less volume, selling pressure. But yet we can still see accumulation. We're still maintaining above the VWAP and the 13 EMA, which is this like skinny white line right here. We're still following it. We're bouncing off the 30, which is the blue one, the 30 EMA. So we still have maintained buying pressure, right? Now, obviously, this is, if you've been trading for a while, you look at a lot of charts, you can tell that this is generally a sign of accumulation, right? Generally around this time, you have you have three things that could possibly happen: either a drop off a cliff, a pop up, or a sideways trading. Here it popped off, right? And generally, the way it pops off, right, is through volume, which we can see here. We have volume. Generally, when it sells off, it's due to the lack of volume, right? Sellers and shorts come in, they see the weakness of buying pressure from bulls, they're able to push it down, right? And sideways just means that the market is, right, you have enough buying, but you also have enough selling to kind of just keep it sideways. So here at around 140, or as I am on the West Coast, it would be 1040, we see some buying pressure kick in, right? We see we have a pop-up, we hit the 30 EMA, we see a pop-up here, collect on top of the 13 EMA, we see some beautiful buying pressure kick back in here, right? Volume increasing, we go from having 300,000, right, which is a significant drop off from this morning, right? We have 300,000, 700,000, 500,000 shares traded in a 5-minute candle. Right, so we're at this point, at this stage, we're looking for volume to kick back in. Right, now all of a sudden, at around this sort of 1050 area, we see a pop in volume. We go from 1 million to 2.5 million, a 250% increase in volume within a 5-minute candle. Right, so this generally indicates that a higher move is coming. Someone is coming in and buying up these shares, right? And we get a next candle, we see 5.6, 5.7 million, yet we do have a long wick at the top here. All right, let me quickly just highlight kind of what I'm talking about, the section, so you guys aren't lost here. This area right here, all right, we see this candle right here. We see 5.7 million shares traded, a pop-up, but we do see some selling pressure. So we have buying pressure, we have volume, but there are people taking profit, right? If you take a look right here, you go for the previous day high, which was at around 32. You can see we hit that resistance point, and people are like, we're taking profit. Now we head into the next candle. Now this is not as much volume, around 4.6 million volume, but we do manage to break resistance, right? We still have the EMA on our side. Even some of the longer EMAs, the 30 and the 48, we have the VWAP on our side. So generally, we can see continuation in this buying pressure, right? As we break over the resistance, right, now into our next 5-minute candle, we see 7.8 million shares traded. Now, as we can see here, we have some long wicks at the top and bottom. The body is still full, indicating confidence to a degree. And we do have a longer wick at the bottom, indicating that buying pressure is stronger than selling pressure, right? Top wick generally indicates selling pressure, and it's shorter than the bottom one. So, how do you say? We can be positive to a degree, right? There's a percentage, most likely probably a 60 or 65% chance with this candle, especially since we closed over that resistance, that 32 resistance, that we could see a couple more candles pushing up. Very strong volume, right? 7.8 million. Now we get to our next candle. This is a massive volume candle, right? You're talking about a volume candle of 9.7 million shares traded. And if we go back to the earlier morning, right, we had some candles that were trading at that size. In fact, I think this was one of, if not the third or second largest candle of the day. Right now, how do you say, we have a small body, a long wick at the top, indicating some sort of selling pressure, or some selling pressure, some profit taking. All right, we still have the momentum of the 13 EMA and the closing candle above this resistance. However, as we are pushing above resistance, we are seeing some profit takers. We do still see some buying pressure. People are trying to push up the price. They're confident with this breakout, the way the chart is set up. We do have a small wick, though, indicating some sort of indecisiveness, right? We're trying to push it up, but how do you say, there's a lot of people taking profit at the top. We can be quite confident that some of these people are shorts, right? And I think right here in this section, we also see some shorts adding. I'll change this to yellow here. This yellow box, I also think these were shorts, and I'll show you in a second why. So yeah, just quickly delete that. I think these are some shorts. So we have shorts buying with the bulls, right? Because we have massive volume kick in out of nowhere, right? We have an indecisive candle, and then we get a pop to 35, a direct pop to 35, which is now our new resistance here, right about here. And we see some selling pressure at the top, which we see about 6.5 million shares, which is significantly less than the previous candle, indicating that people are kind of sitting on the sideline, right? Most of this is profit taking, indicated by the long wick at the top. People who want to buy NVOS, they're a bit unsure, right? We've just seen a massive pop essentially from this. From this probably average of around 29, we'll say 30, right? We just seen a massive 16.55%, 16.5% run, right? Which for any day trader, any scalper, that's a good day in the market, right? You're taking your money, you're turning off your computer, you're going out and you're buying a stake. So for anybody, that's a good trade right there. So at this point, people, right, day traders like 15% generally, and then they kind of exit out their position, right? They stick to their rules, they move on to the next ticker if they can find one, or they just let it be and they close it out for the day. Now we sort of see this long wick at the top here, which indicates a bit of a topping, right? We've already pushed 3 cents above the previous resistance, so chances are we're not going much higher, right? Now, as we can see here, we see a red candle, 4.2 million. Then we see another red candle, 3.8 million. And then we see another candle, 2.2 million, right? Now, as you can see here, these red candles are descending in volume, right? And generally, when you see this candle pattern with this type of volume, you can generally guess or take a strong assumption that there's going to be some rebound, right? Because how do you say, as sellers take profit, right, buyers come in, right? We're tapping the top of this 32, which is now trying to turn into support. It's tapping the top, on the top part of it, right? There's going to be buyers kicking it back in to see if they can push it up any further, right? And then we see 2 million, so we kind of negate this previous candle. We see a million, and then we see 2.7. Excuse me. We see 2.7 million, right? So now here's the thing. These 3 green candles, this volume is absolutely nowhere near these 3 red candles, right? That generally tells us that the buying pressure is weak. There's not enough people to buy to continue pushing up the price. So we can generally say there's going to be another retest of this 32. However, as most people know who are trading NVOS, at around this time, we see this massive red candle, right? We see a red candle, sort of a hangman top with around 900,000 shares. Definitely going to let us know that we're pushing it back down here. And then boom, out of nowhere, 8.2 million shares drop instantly. This happened very fast during the trading day, right? You guys weren't there. You didn't see the actual up and downs of it, but how do you say, when we were watching it live on the stream, it happened very rapidly. Generally, that indicates, right, when you have that many shares in that short time frame unloading, that generally means it's a few people, right? Now, if I were to go to this 2-minute chart right here, right, this kind of shows you what I'm talking about, right? As I said before, on the 5-minute candle, or on the 5-minute chart, right, you have this volume decreasing on the way up. You see some selling pressure, and you see this rebound of this 32. Now, the market at this point, right, is kind of confident. You see some buying pressure on this 2-minute chart, right? You see it retesting some EMAs, and then boom, a massive, I mean, you're talking 8.9 million shares in a 2-minute time frame. That's a lot of volume. That's a lot of shares being dumped onto the market. That's a lot of stop losses being hit, right? And something very, very significant that I want to show you, right? So if I go to the 10-minute here, we can see something. Now, actually, I believe it was the 15. Yes. Yes, the 15. Okay. Now we go to this 15 chart. Okay. So in the 15 candle, we see 17.7 million shares. Now, if you weren't there, if you didn't look at any smaller time frames, you wouldn't really be able to tell that all of these shares were dumped so quickly, right? You have to go to smaller time frames in order to kind of figure that out. Now, as we get dumped, we head back below 29.50. Now, this is significant, right? Because if for those of you who don't know, there's this indicator called the VP. There's variations of this on TradingView. I'm not using TradingView right now. I use Webull on my stream, so I'm just using it for this. You have VP, which is sort of tells you the volume kind of on the level, right? So the most volume right now you see here is you see around 21 million shares trading at around 29.50, right? So now at this point, how do you say, what I call it the volume resistance and volume support, right? This sort of midline, right? There's videos that explains this indicator, but essentially all you need to know is that this yellow line kind of tells you the area where most of the volume lays, right? Where most people have bought and most people have sold, right? And generally when you're above this area, you can be quite confident that this area will be used as support, right? As you can see here, this was used as support earlier on in the day. And when you drop below it, it becomes resistance, which can be indicated here towards the end of the day, right? So it is my thesis in this scenario. I could be wrong, right? I don't know exactly 100% what's the market, right? There might be in the future I could learn something new, but this is just what I see from my understanding of reading the chart, is that at this point, an individual, a short, dropped NVOS, dropped a bunch of shares, sold out, and then what they did is they dropped it below volume. Now, it's very specific, right? This could have been an algorithm as well. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be an individual, right? Chances are when you have this much volume, there's some algos being used in this scenario. Some form of market maker is involved, right? Because that's a lot of volume you have to kind of unload onto the market. Very few regular individuals can do this. So now what you've done is you've turned, instead of using 29.5 as sort of this support area, right? If you kind of had this more natural ebb and flow of the market buying and selling, the individual who did this, the computer who did this, has now turned 29.50 into resistance. And as you can see here, for the rest of the day, right? Here, this is on the 5-minute. For the rest of the day, we tried getting over this area, right? I mean, look at this. You're below the VWAP. You're below the 13, the 48, the 30 EMA. You're below all of it, right? You're using the 100 barely as support, right? You're retesting the 200 EMA. It's all of these, and the momentum, it's the end of the day. Volume is dissipating, right? They're closing up shop. They're getting ready to go make a sandwich, right? Maybe they got to go cook dinner. They're on for a walk. Maybe they've already made some profit. They don't want to deal with this. Whatever it is, volume is exiting the market, right? As you come into close. And then boom, we see massive drops here, right? We see this one 8.2 million candle on the 5-minute. We see another 8.6 million candle on the 5-minute right after that, right? And then boom, we see some indecisiveness where bulls or people trying to push up the stock price are trying to kind of find support here using this 100 EMA, right? So yeah, zoom out here a little bit because it's a bit kind of hard to see here. They're trying to use the support. Even on the 5-minute changes a little bit. It's 29. It doesn't matter. 29, 29.5. Regardless, that area is sort of this. Here, I'll just to draw it out for you guys, so you guys are kind of aware of exactly what I'm talking about. Kind of this area right here has now been turned into resistance, right? And you can see here, there's multiple times within this sort of last hour, what sort of hour within the market, that we're trying to get over it. But as you can see here, we see another 6.2 million share drop. Now, to be fair, this could be for a variety of reasons, right? Maybe people have been are day trading, they've seen this drop, they know it's the end of the day, they're just taking their profit, they're running, they're exiting out of the market, whatever it is, right? We do see a recovery. However, this volume is only 2.5 million. It's not as much, it's not as great. So, how do you say it? The push is weak, right? And we can even see here into the after hours, you see a little bit of a drop. This is generally this sort of candle setup right here that you see. Even though you have the retest of the 200, it bounced up, so you do have some buying pressure with this setup. Generally, this is indicated as the market needs to test some lower prices, which you can see it does here in the after hours, going back down to 26.6. So you may ask, well, I've watched your analysis, I've watched what you think. Why is this a classic, or not even a classic, but why is this a short attack? Well, how do you say? This volume here in the morning could be considered natural, right? It's early on in the morning. There's a lot of hype around the stock. It's cheap. A lot of people can buy shares. Nothing necessarily out of the ordinary here, right? Then you see some accumulation throughout the day. Nothing crazy, nothing too out of the ordinary, right? Sort of midday lulls. Let me change the color of this. And then boom, you see this massive spike in volume, right? Now, do I think it's bulls buying? Yes. This much volume, it almost looks coordinated, right? I mean, this volume kind of comes out of nowhere. Even if you do want to push it up, chances of you breaking 32 is that's going to be tough. You might have to retest that breakout, right? Kind of get this like sort of awkward cup and handle maybe, but you slide right through it. So in this scenario, I believe shorts, instead of physically shorting the stock, right? And this could be coordinated, right? You could have pumpers doing this. You could have market makers doing this. You could have algorithms doing this, whatever the case may be, right? You could see a massive increase in shares, right? And how do you say, you could have one person buying the shares, and then once it gets up there, you have a bunch of shorts come in, right? This candle right here, this sort of topping candle that you see right here is incredibly significant, this purple one, right? It kind of tells you that story, right? Because yes, it's not a lot of, or well, how do you say, I would say these two candles even, you have this topping sort of long wicks at the top indicating selling pressure. Now remember, when you buy a stock, you become a short. I know a lot of people don't like to think of it like that, but you become a short, you become a seller. So you see buying pressure come in and a bunch of selling pressure here at the top, right? Running into this 35 resistance point. Now, what I think happened here is someone is buying and someone is shorting. They're working together, right? And that happens all the time. Look up how market makers work, right? They work together. They how do you say? They manipulate a stock. Generally, you have around 2 or 3 guys working it. Some guys work against each other. Some guys work with each other. It kind of depends on the relationship of market makers or algorithms just in general. Sometimes just algos, and they type in a couple of numbers and boom, there you go. So boom, this first drop could be considered natural, right? This is what keeps people in the buying, right? Which is actually what you see sort of right here, right? This sort of, these candles, this is what I would consider quite natural sort of move in the market. It's a recovery. You see a long wick here testing that support. Everyone's like, okay, we're going back. And then all of a sudden you get no volume. Where did all the volume go? Someone was buying, someone was selling. Where did all this volume go? This volume is very weak all of a sudden. And then boom, the hammer drops. Right? I mean, it's my guess that sort of in this sort of block, this sort of area right here, right? This sort of, see, what color do I want to use? Sort of this sort of, we'll use this color, this sort of weird purplish. In this area, what you probably had happen was You had a market maker or an algo, whatever it was, buy a bunch of shares. You had another one short a bunch of shares. And then whoever bought on this run up, they could have probably been buying back here, right? I mean, that would be a significant gain. If you're buying up, if you're buying up here, you're not going to make as much money, but you're probably setting it up off of the beginning, especially, with so much volume here, you could easily be hidden. It's kind of hard to tell what is crazy because, you had massive pops in volume all throughout the morning. So they're hidden in here. You can't really see them. Maybe with the specific buy orders, if you're looking at the order book, maybe, right? The time and sales, maybe. But it's kind of hard to see that, right? Because people are looking at other stocks. They're reading news. They're not fully focused on this one specific stock the entire day. Very few people recognize this. But this is a lot easier to see because it kind of comes out of nowhere. And then boom, someone starts shorting shares, right? So simultaneously, someone puts their foot on the gas, brings up the price. Someone is simultaneously hitting the brake somewhere else, right? It's like a student, those student driver cars where someone hits the gas, like the guy's teaching you hits his foot on the brake and he can stop the car even though he's in the passenger seat. It's kind of like that, right? So someone else is hitting the brake, but not all the way, right? He's not completely stopping or rejecting a potential move forward, right? He's not doing that. But the person who is putting his foot on the gas pedal all of a sudden lets go and then simultaneously puts his foot on the brake. So now you have two people putting their foot on the brakes, and that instantly stops the momentum, instantly kills the car from moving any forward anywhere. Can't push forward. And then down here, this is desperation. If you want to use a word for this area, this sad area, this is desperation. This is just these candles are sad. These are just people are crying to themselves. This is just reeks of desperation. Terrible deodorant. So, but yep, that's all. That's my analysis for NVOS on the September 5th of 2023. Kind of tells you a story about supply, demand, buying pressure, selling pressure, market makers, shorts, bulls, longs, whatever you want to call it. Sort of a story, right? That's what a chart tells you. It's a story. What are people thinking? What do they know? What don't they know? Right? So it's a story. That's a story that I think was told right there. It was a both beautiful yet sad story. And yeah, that was my analysis. A classic ladder attack, a short attack on a stock that had a beautiful setup with a potential run up, right? So, because just to kind of give you an idea of what's kind of going on, I'll take a look for you what kind of happened today, right? Today we kind of popped up here on the, this is NVOS today. This is the 6th, right? I'm not going to analyze this because that's way too long. I already spent enough time on the previous day, but how do you say? We saw some pop-ups. We hit 34, so we almost retested 35. And if I go out on the daily here and I look back, as you can see, we have a massive gap from 38 really to about 61, but technically 72, but you do have some volume there. So it's a bit weak. So if MVUS manages to break into 35, you don't have a lot of this volume, right? You don't have a volume resistance. It's kind of clear skies from there. So there's an incentive for market makers or shorts to kind of keep the price down. And that was just an example of how they do this. A lot of people complain about shorts in the market. But if I ask you, tell me where the shorts did what? Most people can't do that, right? And it's your job to figure it out. Very few people actually know how to do that. I would recommend you put in the time and research. I put in the time and research, right? I stream every day. I look at charts every day. I look at 20, 30 charts every day. I look at volume. I look at price action. I look at news. I read filings. Read your filings. God damn it, read your goddamn filings. right? You got to put in the work. A lot of people don't put in the work and they complain about something that's arbitrary. Let me tell you, if you put in the work, you can figure out what's happening, okay? Because there are people out there who know exactly what's happening, right? There's probabilities, there's chances you fail, there's something that you could read incredibly well, but it goes your wrong way. That's the chance of life, the chance of the market. That's the beauty of it, right? That's what gives us the adrenaline rush. But it's possible, and it's up to you. So, without further ado, until next time, guys, peace.